upside down in Sonji land.
Hi and welcome to the Sonji Land show where everybody's upside down. And today I have a very special guest who I'm actually very mind blown by since I took her classes today. And well, you turned me from a blockophobe into a yay, I can do a lateral block walk. This is Dora Skelton. And yeah, I want to know everything about you. So let's start with how you got into handstands and what was your movement background? How did it all start?
Okay, so I grew up in childhood dance, basically. And I had it, especially as I started to become like 12, 13, 14, a lot of my teachers were just very much like, why are you not flexible? Why don't you know how to do this? And it was just like, I didn't know how. So I had it very much in my head that like, okay, you're not talented. Nothing's going to work out. And then when I was like 16, 17, I started doing pole. And that was the first time I felt like, oh, wow, like if I go through a progression and I trust the steps, like I can learn something, right? So then at the place where I did pole, which I don't do anymore, I met Sam Starr and I started taking her handstand class. And I literally couldn't do anything. My first class, I was starting to get flexible because I was taking flexibility classes there as well. So my first handstand ever was like a puppy press, really slow cartwheel item that I just kind of like slow cartwheel fall out.
But you could press up?
Yeah, press up, fall down was like my first handstand. And then after that, I fell in love with it because I thought like, this is so much cooler. And I started working with Olaf, and he took me from like a straddle handstand-ish that goes to a full that pikes and arches a lot and then falls down. He took me from that to like a 15-second one arm over the course of 2 years. And then I started working with Kevin Kazu on the internet, and he started teaching me the Mongolian style of like various transitions in one arm, and that's where we are now, and I'm obsessed.
And it's so crazy because you say you learned that over like 2 years, over the course of 2 years, going from not being able to balance to doing one arms.
Well, I would say there was a year between like me doing that puppy press interesting thing to meeting Olaf.
Okay.
If that makes sense, where I was like learning how to kick up into straight, learning how to like hold tuck. But really, like, when I met Olaf, I could not comfortably transition between shapes. I would do, like, one and fall down. And that was where I was at. And I literally told him I wanted to learn a one arm. And I was like, and he was like, yeah, okay. But, I mean, it ended up happening. And I kept, like, seeing him. And he kept making me suffer through the lessons. And it got to the point where, like, I could hold a 15-second one arm. And then I sent that to Kevin on Instagram. I was like, please teach me. And
was he pushing you a lot, or did you push yourself a lot?
I really wanted to do it. So like, I would see him like when he came to New York, which was not that often, but then
like every couple of months,
maybe twice while he was here, maybe 3 times if I could find like a buddy, because like money, you know. But I did the work. Like I've had a handstand practice that's like 5-6 days a week consistently since 2017. So I started coming here to Warrior Bridge because before I owned a bunch of blocks, I was like, Warrior Bridge has all these blocks, and Olaf told me to do block walks. So I have to go to Warrior Bridge to do lateral block walks. And I came here, and like for 2 hours, I would try and fall and then like finish the set and try and fall and finish the set. And then over time, like it got better.
Yeah, and it got better pretty quickly. So what does your training look like now? They're like jumping up there. I don't know what they're doing.
Handstand class, so like,
That doesn't mean anything good. Is it a beginner class?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, they're fine.
They're fine. They're getting acclimated.
That's what it's like.
Yeah,
when you train.
Remember those days.
But what does your training look like now?
What does my training look like now? I guess it depends on the day. there are certain days where I make this huge list of things and I spend like 4 hours like doing every single thing that I planned, and then there are other days where I'm like, everything hurts and my body is tired, and then I work on more basic things and work on refining basic drills, because it's like, okay, since I'm so tired, I did something and that's good for the day. But it just depends. Right now I'm trying to get more comfortable with doing like weird one-arm entrances on canes that Kevin showed me like last week when he was here. And so like I'm trying to get comfortable with that, but falling off canes makes your ankles really sore. And I never say that.
You don't jump a lot?
Not anymore. It's like after you take a break, it's like, good morning.
Yeah.
I haven't used these in a while. You know?
Sounds like your training is super auto-regulated.
What does that mean?
It means like you, depending on how you feel on the day, you adjust your program. Or is it like you don't even have a fixed program in place?
I mean, I have fixed goals of like what I'm trying to learn, you know? So even if like I feel more tired, I will spend time on the things that need to be spent time. But I just might not spend 4 hours really not quitting until the thing works.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That might be like, okay, I'm going to do this for like 20 minutes, or like I'm going to give it like 5-10 tries, and then that's enough, you know?
And what are your goals right now?
Okay, so this is kind of a long-term one, but like I want to be able to do combinations that have switches and then sequences on one block and then one cane, right? I would like to be able to do split grab that goes into Figa, because I think that looks cool.
Holding on to the leg? Or letting go?
So split grab, and then you bring the leg that's over back to like a straddled split grab, and then from there, like, it'd be cool. Yeah, I don't see that very often. Yep. I want to get more comfortable with contortion one arms. Like I can do contortion one arms in 2 shapes, but there's like this 3rd shape that my coach is like, you have to learn, and it's hard. So I want to be able to do that one. I want to learn M, the hollow back that looks like the letter M.
Oh, where you have your hips bent and your knees bent.
Yeah, it's really hard, but it's so cool, and I want to learn it. So like that, hopefully. And just getting more comfortable with canes, because I just started trying to do things on canes. So like being able to do everything on blocks.
Okay, I have so many questions now. Are the canes still... Why are they uncomfortable?
They're not like scary, it's just different. It's just like I'm so like everybody, I feel like with handstands is used to where they practice most, you know. So I practice most on my circle blocks, and that's like what I'm used to. So it's just like change is hard, you know. It's kind of. I feel like it'll be fine. You're also like asking me this like maybe a week after I started trying things on canes. Oh, okay. So that could be why.
So like next week you will be like. Yeah. Okay, next problem.
I just have to do more of it for longer, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. I wasn't aware that you just started on canes.
I just didn't have access to. I have to get my own now. But like for all of COVID, it was me and my blocks at home.
Okay, I want to get back to the M shape. What is the hard thing about that? Because you can easily lift your feet from a bridge and come into a full Mexican. What is holding you back from the M?
So M is like 2 things. It's that for a really long time, but it's that lifting from a bridge with head neutral, not looking at the feet. So when you put your head neutral, that adds more weight, makes it a little bit harder. I've done that one, but not for like very long. And then it's that plus, you know, head sit in a chest stand. Like, so it's being really flexible in that and being really strong in your shoulders all together.
Head sit in a chest stand means you're on your chest and your butt is on your head.
Yeah. So like it's that flexibility plus the strength of head neutral hollow back.
Gotcha.
Put together. And so just like adding those pieces together is like difficult, because like sometimes I'll like warm up the head sit and it'll feel really, really good, and then my shoulders are like, or my shoulders will feel really, really strong, but then like I can't pike my hips enough to get to, it's a really difficult position.
I bet.
but I want to do it.
Yeah.
So
How often do you train flexibility, or do you have a structured flexibility training?
yes, I prefer to. I don't want to do like deep flexibility more than really twice a week, because then I start to get like, then it starts to feel like my muscles can't like return to normal length, right? So I feel like twice a week is like deep flexibility where I try to really like challenge where my range is. But then every day, like warm up, and then throughout my training, I try to do like where is comfortable, maybe a little bit challenging, but nothing that's like
Basically,
insane for my body.
just using the range you have and getting into it.
Yeah. And that's like every day I practice. There has to be some sort of flexibility, but like as far as like contortion goes, the way that I found is best for me to do it is like twice a week. But you know, in the summer I can do like 3 or 4 times a week because it's warm. It's just in the winter, like it's not.
Yeah, your body reacts differently.
It's like, stop.
Yeah. Okay, I want to talk about the way you think about your skill development and the way you think about other people's skill development, because you're a really good teacher, actually. And I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting that. And I also didn't know you well. But coming here and seeing how you work and how your mind works around building, you know, the different skills, it's really interesting to me. So I want to know a little more about that. How long have you been teaching?
Okay, so I started, like, even before I came into this whole practice, I started teaching flexibility to dancers when I was like 16. So I'm almost 24 now. So however much that is how long I've been teaching.
8 years.
Yes. I coached men's gymnastics for 5 of those 8, which that was interesting to like, so ages between like 5 and 18 were like who I coached in men's gymnastics, and all boys. So I definitely have like versatility as far as like who I've worked with. But
and it sounds like you started teaching really early. So
yeah,
like that puts you in a mind.
I love it so much because I feel like there's this certain feeling that I get when I learn something new that like it's just, I don't know how to like really like fulfilling, and like especially when you work hard for something and then you like it happens, it's so
empowering.
Yeah.
And
so like I also get that same thing when I give it to somebody else, because like if I helped you do that and then you got that feeling, like that's awesome because I know what that is like, you know. So I like teaching a lot.
So when did you start teaching handstands and contortion?
That actually, I informally was like helping people out as I was learning at all times, just because like I feel like that's a natural thing that exists. You know, when I see something, I'm like, so do you want to hear about it? You want me to talk about it?
Kind of like it happened with me, where like
yeah.
we were doing handstands, and then I'm just going to talk to this camera. We were doing handstands, and then she observed me and she gave me such good cues, and was like, oh, okay, I'm going to work with you now.
Well, you gotta make sure the person is like down for like because if they don't want to hear it and they're like, I'm just doing my own thing, like that's cool too. I understand that, right? But if somebody wants to hear something, like it's not guaranteed that I'm gonna help, because like everybody's body is different, and what worked for me and what worked in my experience may not work for a different type of body, which makes a lot of sense. But if there's any bit of information that I can give that helps somebody feel like something is achievable or move in the right direction, that's exciting. So I started teaching handstands and contortion formally about handstands were part of gymnastics. So that was like the thing that I spent a lot of time with my boys on, was like, we're getting a really straight handstand and we're holding it for a long time and we're holding it everywhere, and we're learning how to push on one arm so we can pirouette and all that stuff. So, and we can do skills that turn on one arm and like that kind of thing. So it wasn't balanced one arms, but the push was definitely an aspect. And we worked on that a lot. And that was like my job, was like strength, flexibility, and handstands were like the thing that I mainly did. And then on the events I like assisted, unless it was pommel horse. I coached pommel horse a lot. It's fun. But as far as teaching adults in handstands, that kind of started about, I want to say, a year ago-ish. And now it's really like, this is really like the beginning of me teaching a lot more adults in handstands. Like towards the end of COVID, I started taking like, well, not the end because it's still COVID, but I started Saturdays taking more clients recently because I stopped coaching men's gymnastics because I live in Brooklyn. They're in northern Westchester. That's a 3-hour commute. I decided that was a poor choice for my life. And now I have more time to like teach here and take clients and stuff. But the other thing I realized is like adults are much different to teach than children. So I'm kind of exploring that right now. Like children, there's really no point in doing so much explaining and stuff. It's like it's drills and put them in the position. So even now with adults, I'm more like drills. Like I'd rather make you feel it than like orient my words in a way that makes sense because I don't know if it's gonna work. But it's interesting to make that change and adjustment because I'm so used to like the way that you would be around kids. And adults are like, relax. Like,
you don't have to tame them.
There's no discipline. There's no issue of people like not listening to you and making up a competition or a game or a reason for them to do it. That doesn't exist because they're there for...
I would totally be up for that kind of stuff.
It's fun. Especially boys are very competitive. So if you make it like you have to be better than your friend, like all of a sudden everybody has really nice form. But with adults, it's like they're there because they want to be there. So it's more so like get to the point and this is the information. If it's not working, we have to make an adjustment. And like if you don't understand, we have to do something that's going to make you understand. Versus with children, you can just spot them. You can just put them in the position and be like, this is right. With adults, if they're my size, like you might spot them, but they have to be doing 75%. Like I can't pick up 100% of body weight. My size, I'm not that strong. So,
and also, I guess grown-up minds are so much more in their heads, like less in the body and more in their heads.
That's true as well.
I find that transition really interesting of you teaching handstands and gymnastics where it's not held or not balanced.
It is held, but it's like all about the straight line so much. There's no transitions. There's no isolating the lower body and keeping the upper body still. It's literally like the straight line on the parallel bars, the straight line on the floor, the straight line on the rings. Like it's just this. We're just doing this. And then like, can we pirouette to this? And like, it's all shape.
So I'm wondering, how was a session back then and how would you teach a session today? I mean, obviously the purpose was a different one, but could you give like a comparison of what the drills were there versus...
A lot of the drills I have carried over actually, just as far as like if somebody's learning a straight handstand, like a lot of the stuff I used in gymnastics is very beneficial to somebody learning a straight handstand because there are certain things that can make you feel what it's like to bring your chest in and hollow your low back and keep your shoulders open at the same time and squeeze your glutes at the same time. So you create that straight line. There's a lot of drills for that I know from gymnastics, which are good. There's a lot of things that literally had no use in the sport of gymnastics, considering how much time we had, like that build transitions for hand balancing. So those are kind of things that I've learned from hand balance coaches and from people I know that also do handstands, not from gymnastics. And if I were to do that in the gym, my boss would have been like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So what are the biggest lessons you've learned for yourself?
In life?
In learning handstands and also in flexibility.
Okay. Probably the biggest one would be the fact that you're not gonna necessarily have the best practice every single time, but your worst practice now is better than your best practice however long ago.
Okay, cool.
So sometimes like there are days where I'll spend a lot of time on one thing and every turn will get progressively better, but I will not get to the final result that I was looking for. in that day, like a transition that I will not get to that point, even though I will make improvements and things will change. It won't be what I want. And it's kind of like, I have to look at that scenario. Like, I tried hard, I improved my turns, I had a good practice, I'm going to get that. It's just, it's the instant gratification kind of thing has to be like, taken care of in a sense.
Yeah, that's a really good system actually, to look at the worst session compared to now and compared to, I don't know, whenever. How do you know that? Do you capture yourself on video a lot, or do you have a training journal or anything like that?
Instagram.
Ah.
I kind of, like, I don't really care about whether my Instagram, like, looks internet pretty necessarily. It's more so, like, I can, if I'm ever, like, oh, my practice was bad, I can look at, like, this time 2 years ago, my practice was not this. So I wasn't even close. So it's a process, and it's not really linear in a sense. Like, you'll have good days and bad days, and it's just as long as you keep doing progressive work, it ends up working out.
I love that. Yeah. Does that mean you use your Instagram in a real way, quote unquote? Kind of, like how some people only post their best attempts. Some people, probably everyone. But like, how realistic are you with your Instagram?
No, I post my best attempts. But I story sometimes my other attempts, and I explain the things that are not happening. And then sometimes people will message me and be like, well, if you're not doing good in this position, then why am I trying? And I'm just like, no, I was just giving information about what I need to do better. Like, this is just so you can see.
I'm not being self-deprecating.
It's just knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be great. Just, I do need to close my shoulder a little bit more in this position. Like,
Oh, that's so funny you get that.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly.
I get some interesting things on Instagram, for sure. It's fine. It's nice to have the gallery of where the journey has taken me.
I bet.
Yeah.
And for flexibility, is there anything specific you have learned in terms of that for your own body?
Yes. For me, flexibility, like when I grew up as a child, it was kind of like sit in things and they hurt, and like sit in them longer, and like, why can't you do it? And like, it hurts. And so what I have found is flexibility for me is, like, how I define it is how strong you are in your deepest range of motion, right? So like, if you take my class, for example, or if you work with me, that's kind of a lot of what I try to do, is like turning on your muscles in your deeper range. And then the fact that you turned on your muscles in that range, that means that like you've unlocked a little bit more range. And then can you turn on muscles there? Okay, it might not work because you just unlocked that range, but can you try to turn on muscles there? And so what that does for me is it makes it feel good. Like, I never feel any sort of physical pain when I do flexibility. I feel like it's hard work. It's probably the hardest work for me as far like compared to training handstands. Like, I feel like flexibility training is much harder, and compared to training strength, like flexibility training is much harder. But it's never painful. It feels good. It feels very like accomplished. I sleep very well after flexibility training.
Nervous system fried.
Yeah, like done. Like, goodbye.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's basically, it's not like strength, like it's not like biceps or anything like that. It's literally like, in your range, can you activate the muscles that are at their longest position? Can you turn them on? And then repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat.
That is such an important information, like when it comes to flexibility, I think.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I found. I don't know if that's necessarily the case for everybody, as long that's just what I found for my body. Feels good and makes it so that I can do things that like I didn't think were possible for my body, and makes it so that I can continue to go further in the practice without feeling like I'm in any kind of physical danger. It actually feels like more so necessary for keeping up, with strength training and stuff to balance.
Yeah. That brings me to something I want to circle back to. You said you thought you weren't that talented. Was that what you said at the beginning when you were little, when you were in the dance group? You didn't think you were flexible And
Well, I wasn't. I had no splits.
right. But how do you feel now? Because you're like, they call you a mini beast. I've seen that on Instagram.
Okay.
Someone called you mini beast. I didn't know if that
That's
was
cool.
a common thing or if it was
So,
just
like, I'm
like
short or like or mean. No.
no, you're so good.
I feel like that's kind of they're really cartwheeling out up there. No, I feel like now, just because of what my experience was, I just feel like kind of if anybody wants to learn something and they're willing to go through what it takes to learn it, like I feel like anybody can achieve what it is their physical goals are. It's just a matter of whether they're gonna do the progression and stick with it, like consistency over time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I wouldn't necessarily use the word talented. I would say that I've been consistent over time and
Mm-hmm.
driven, and that's led to results.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't think that that's anything like special necessarily. I think that that's achievable for like a large percentage of people.
I think there's truth to that, but I also think you're special.
I think that the special lies in maybe the amount of willingness to do.
Do you think it also matters how much your body can take versus how much another body can take?
I think that that's something that changed.
It changed?
Trained.
Oh, trained.
Like, I think when I was, like, before, I wasn't able to handle as much as now, and I think later on I'll be able to handle more, like, physically as
Gotcha. So looking at the future, this is the last question.
well. Oh, God. Okay.
And maybe you don't have an answer for it, but do you see yourself anywhere specific in the future? Like,
I am focused on what I'm doing tomorrow. I planned my practice for tomorrow. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic and a climate crisis.
yeah,
I
I
think
know.
that my future plans would be kind of silly at this point. One day at a time. That's kind of, there are things that like maybe would be nice to learn in the future or whatever, but I don't see really the point in planning them. I feel like small little incremental steps in one day, and then they add up, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so with you on that. Especially now, considering the times we live in. But
I had a whole different plan for 2020. So I was like, it's pointless.
Yep, so did I.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it was so great to talk to you. And thank you so much for coming on the show and for teaching me so many things.
Yay, that was fun.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to put all your information down below. So if you don't know Dora, which I'm pretty sure you do. But anyway, check her out and follow her. She's amazing. And you can also take her classes on Zoom from anywhere you are in the world. Just check out Warrior Bridge. Do you have an own website where you have all your classes listed?
No.
Okay. But you can just message her on Instagram.
There we go.
Keep it easy, keep it simple. That's what I do. And yeah, that's it for today. It's never too late to do what you love. And I'll see you next week on the Sonji Land Show.